Hi there, this is David, and as many of you probably know, recently Square Enix sent out a survey asking their Japanese fans and followers, hey, which games in our massive library would you like to see be remade into an HD2D version? So, even though I can't vote in it because I'm not in Japan, believe me, I have my opinions. So I've got about 20-something games here that I want to be remade into an HD version. And I want to talk about those games right now, starting with, of course, Chrono Trigger. Yeah, this was one of my favorite games growing up. It is fantastic. It tells the adventure of some time travelers who go from the present day to the medieval era, to the prehistoric era, to the future, to the Ice Age. They're going all over the place. And this is just back before Square Enix were one company. They didn't really work together, but this marked them actually working together for like the first time. And really, they just came up with a fantastic game. They were known as the Dream Team, and for good reason. I do think that if there is a game that needs to be remade in HD2D style, it is definitely Chrono Trigger. But believe me, there are plenty of others out there. The next series that I would love to see be redone is the Lufia series. I am talking about maybe getting a Lufia collection. I know that there are 5 games in the series, but I would be content with just the first 3, since those are the mainline series, excluding the remake and the Gaiden. If we got the Lufia series put together and done in HD2D remastered, I could be very happy. If you are not aware, Lufia 1 is pretty much just like a Dragon Quest clone. Lufia 2 is one of the best games ever made. Puzzle-based dungeons, fantastic. The worlds are all interconnected. It basically takes a lot of influence from even Zelda. Like, it is just such a good game. If you haven't played Lufia 2, you're missing out. Lufia 3 was on the Game Boy Color, and as such, it didn't have, all the niceties of Lufia 2, but it was still a really good game. And all 3 games are connected. They all tell the story of the Sinistrals, and they all follow descendants of the titular hero, Maxim, right here. So I think that getting them all together, all in one package, brought to a modern audience in that HD2D style, would just be great. Next up, we have what is known as the Heaven and Earth Trilogy, which actually consists of 3 games on the SNES, as well as a 4th over on the PlayStation, but that one's kind of meh. Anyway, it starts with Soul Blazer, then Illusion of Gaia, then Terranigma, which we never actually did get here in America, but Europe did get. And just as I would love to have a Lufia collection of those 3 games, I would love to have a Heaven and Earth Trilogy collection of these 3 games. For those of you unaware, these are 3 action RPGs taking place on Earth and just telling just kind of odd, nonsensical stories, and it might have a little bit to do with the wonky translation, but they are just so much fun. They're short games. You can beat Soul Blazer in probably a day if you really go at it. Illusion of Gaia, probably maybe 2 days or so. Terranigma is much longer than the other 2, but boy, these definitely tell a story, and not only would I love to see an HD2D remake of them, I would love to get a retranslation of them as well. There is a 4th game, the Grand Stream Saga, over on the PlayStation, and it's very loosely connected to the Heaven and Earth trilogy, and it is technically the 4th game in it, so I guess it is a quadrilogy, but it's just not as good. So if we don't get that one, I'm okay with that. Now, I know that this next game does get some hate, but I'm not a hater. I actually really liked this one growing up. It's Secret of Evermore. This was basically our answer to Terranigma. We didn't get Terranigma, but we got Secret of Evermore. It was created by an American development team back whenever games just weren't. So the translation is actually really good, and it's pretty funny, I've got to say as well. And it plays very similar to Secret of Mana, so much so that I thought that this was the sequel to Secret of Mana back whenever I was a kid. Basically, you play as a boy and his dog as they go through 4 different time-themed land. You start off in Prehistorica, then you go to, I believe it's Crustacea, which is kind of like ancient Rome. Then you go to Gothica, which is more medieval, I suppose. And then you go to, oh, what is it called? Like Futuristica or something? I don't know, it's like a future land. But it is so much fun. You can control the boy, you can control the dog, and you can also use alchemy. You go around and you gather alchemy ingredients, and the dog can kind of sniff out these ingredients, and then you collect them, and then you can combine the 2 ingredients rather than using MP to cast these alchemical spells, and it's just great. I would love to see this game in an HD2D style. I am sorry, but it is high time that we got some Super Mario RPG Legend of the 7 Stars up in here. We have the very first Mario RPG was the best one! This was the best one! And did they ever really follow it up with a sequel to it? No. We got those Paper Mario games. We got the Mario and Luigi games, which I guess are the closest thing to it, but we didn't get this. And now that Square is back in Nintendo's good graces, and they're really releasing a lot of their games on Nintendo, I really see no reason as to why we can't get this game redone in the HD2D style. To be quite honest, it still looks fantastic even today. You can look at the graphics. I want to say they had Rare help out with these graphics because they were doing Donkey Kong Country at the time, which just had super good graphics. And yeah, this is the game that I love. This is what I love, because instead of just having like Mario and a partner, this was much more of a traditional RPG. You fought in groups of 3. You had Mario, you had Princess Toadstool, you had Bowser, you had Geno, you had Mallow, and it really did play like more of a traditional RPG, and it is definitely my favorite in the series. Next up, because Square does seem to be doing quite a bit with the Saga series lately, the games that started it all, the original Saga series, the Final Fantasy Legend series. That would be Final Fantasy Legend 1, or I guess the Final Fantasy Legend, Final Fantasy Legend 2, as well as Final Fantasy Legend 3. Even if you are not a fan of the Saga games, check these games out. I am not a fan of the Saga games, but I am a fan of these games because they don't play like normal Saga games. They play like normal Final Fantasy games, especially the 3rd game. The 3rd game is Final Fantasy. It really is. It is Final Fantasy. Basically, what you have in these Final Fantasy Legend games is you can, at least in the first 2 games, you can choose what your party consists of. Humans, mutants, or monsters. Humans are good at physical fighting, mutants magic, and monsters eat meat in order to evolve. In the 2nd game, you can add in robots who use equipment to kind of power up. And in the 3rd game, you just get 2 humans and 2 mutants, but they can eat meat and they can evolve and they can change and stuff. And they're a lot of fun. You go through multiple worlds. The first game, you go through 4 worlds. The second game, I want to say it's 11 different worlds. And then the 3rd game, you time travel between past, present, future. You go to a float land, you go to a pure land. It is boatloads of fun. There's actually a collection of this out on Steam, too. So it's not too far out of the realm of imagination that these games might get HD2D remastered, especially, just adding color to these games would do so much to bring it to a modern audience. I'm sure all of you out there are aware that we are getting remakes of Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3. That's already been announced. There's even been footage shown of the Dragon Quest 3 HD2D remake. But Dragon Quest is my favorite series and I'm a little bit selfish, so I want even more Dragon Quest. I want the Zenithia trilogy of Dragon Warrior 4, Dragon Quest 4, I want that done. I want the best game in the series, Dragon Quest V, done. And Dragon Quest 6, redone. These are all loosely based together. They are known as the Zenithia trilogy, whereas the first 3 games are the Erdrick trilogy, and they do follow much more of a storyline. These only follow some thematic things, such as Zenithia equipment and towers and dragons and things like that, rather than an actual storyline. But they are still connected. And these are the last 3 games in the series that do have a trilogy going on. But they're just so good. They're so good. And they're so expensive now on the DS that I think that it's time to bring these games into the modern forefront. And I do think that if Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3 do well, that we'll see 4, 5, and 6 shortly thereafter. Speaking of the Nintendo DS, it is time for Dragon Quest 9 to get a remake. We need this game remade. It is the only one that's not available on a home console. It's the only one that's only available on a portable device. None of the online features are still implemented, and the biggest draw to it was these online grottos and online shops and things like that, because once you completed the game, there was this huge, massive post-game, but we don't have access to that anymore, and it just sucks. And to put this on a modern console, and to really show what could be done, and to allow people to like play with other people that they know, and just an easier way than the DS would just make this game just superb. Redo it in the HD2D style that we all know and love, and oh man, this would just be gangbusters. This thing would really sell. We all know that the Bravely Default series has been hugely successful, but it didn't actually start off with just Bravely Default. It started with Final Fantasy IV Heroes of Light. And this game not only deserves an HD2D remake just to bring it into the modern audiences, because we are still speaking of the Nintendo DS, but it just deserves a remake in general. Like, this thing needs to be remade from the ground up. There were some issues with it that Bravely Default definitely fixed. And being able to bring in turning off random encounters, fixing the entire introductory section where your characters continually leave, fixing the item system where you only have like 15 pieces of equipment and magic counts as equipment, fixing the targeting thing where you're not able to target who you want to target, it automatically targets for you, fixing all of that, putting in that Brave and Default combat system that the series is known for. That would go a long ways into making this something really, really special. I feel like if you're gonna remake it and it needs to be remade, you might as well do it right. I personally thought that the Star Ocean series was dead after the 5th game, but it's not! It came back with a vengeance with the 6th game, and the 6th game is fantastic, and let me tell you why the 6th game's fantastic. Because it took everything that Star Ocean the 2nd story did right! Yeah. So, since the series is back, since Square is putting their time, effort, and love into it, why not go back to the best one in the series and remake that and bring it back to modern audiences? This one would fit right in with the other games that I have mentioned today. Has dual protagonists, has multiple party members, multiple planets to explore. It's a whole lot of fun, and it's not available on modern consoles. All the other Star Oceans are those PSP remakes of the first one, and then there are some HD remasters of the 3rd and 4th, and those are available on modern consoles, but the 2nd one just isn't, and I don't really know why. So put this on modern consoles. Come on now. I know that this one might come as a shock to some of y'all, because you don't know that Square actually owns Grandia, but they do. Let's get a Grandia. HD2D remastered. And similar to Star Ocean, where there are some HD remasters already of like the third and the fourth game, there is an HD remaster of the first and second Grandia, but I feel like it just needs to be remade. It just needs to be remade, it needs to be sped up a little bit, and it needs to be redone in that HD2D graphical style. Although the graphics, I will say, are fantastic. I love the original graphics. There is definitely a charm to them. They aged very well, and a lot of graphics on the PlayStation didn't age very well because they went all polygonal, but Grandia kept on with the sprites, and it really, really, really did work well for them. But I just love this series, and I'd love to see it continue on, and I think it is terrible that it ended the way that it did with the crummy Grandia 3 and then that Grandia Extreme. Like, we need to remake this to get some demand out, to get back to the basics of what made Grandia so great. Yeah. The original Final Fantasy VIII, actually, for those who are unaware. And that's why Disc 2 is the way that Disc 2 is. This was actually developed to be Final Fantasy VIII, and then midway through development, they cut their budget, and they said, no, your hero's too old, we need a high school sim. So we got the Final Fantasy VIII that we got, and Xenogears' second disc fell off a cliff, where it is just talking, and it's no good. So I would love to see an HD2D remake of Xenogears, and really, 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 like, not only just, remake it for modern audiences, but just fix that disc too. Fix it, and just make this the fantastic game that we all know that it can be. This game is just one in a million, and I would love to actually get finish up the Xenogears story. This was supposed to be a 6-part series, kind of like Star Wars, and it started, I want to say that Xenogears was episode 5, I'm pretty sure. So we were supposed to get, other episodes, but we never did. So, yeah, it's just kind of unfortunate. We got those Xenosagas, but that didn't finish either. So, yeah, now that the Xenoblade is kind of its own thing, I would just like to see a remake of really where it all started from with Xenogears. So, hope that all y'all enjoyed this video, enjoyed this countdown, enjoyed me just kind of going back on through this older library of Square's games and saying which ones really do need a remake, because there's a lot of them out there and a lot of really good ones out there too. So let me know what games y'all think need a remake, and yeah, have a good day.